Welcome to 90s Noise. I'm April, born 1991.
And I'm Ashley, born in 1988. We got a little movie conversation for 1991. Obviously, I mean, you saw it with the title and everything, and we're going to be talking about My Girl today. I know that this was, you said, your first time watching this movie as a whole, though, right?
To my memory, yes. I had seen there were like different scenes where I was like, oh, that's familiar. And I don't know if it was just seeing like little clips on different, like I love the 90s shows or something like that. But as a whole, this was my first time actually sitting down and watching it.
Okay.
You'll
Yeah.
hear somebody who grew up with it, like you did. And I believe you really enjoyed this movie, right? This was one of your
Yeah, I feel
tops.
like we're like turning the tables because we just did, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where it was the same thing basically, and
Yeah.
now we're on this movie. And I wouldn't say this movie was as life-changing or as influential as the Turtles was for you. I just know that this was a movie growing up that was something my sister really loved.
Hmm.
And so obviously, she had the movie, she had the book from it because they wrote like a book version, like adapted from the movie type thing. You know how they do those.
Okay. Yeah, because the movie was like November, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't look into when the book was released, but I know we had both. And like I said, my sister was a huge fan of it, so obviously I was really too young in 91 to comprehend the scale of what the movie was sort of exploring, but I do have memories of just, watching that movie and kind of the characters and the actors and all of that I just and I remember the bee scene just being making me kind of afraid of bees, and I think a lot of people became afraid of bees after that point because of that whole scene that went down.
Yeah, spoiler alerts. But
Spoiler.
so that's actually really interesting because I honestly thought I knew what happened.
Hmm.
I think I'd gone to rent it one time because I kept on seeing it being rented at Blockbuster. I was like, what is this movie? What is this? Like, I was curious on it. And my mom stopped me and she was like, that is a very emotional and sad movie. I don't think it's the right time for you to watch it. Just from what I was going through at the time and everything. I was like,
How old
okay.
do you think you were?
So this was when we were working at Blockbuster. So I was late teens,
Okay.
and so it was, but that was just a time where my mental health wasn't
Hmm.
in the best spot.
Hmm.
And so she's like, she had recommended that I not watch it because of the trauma that they go through and
Right.
everything. But I, for some reason, thought that it was that he had cancer or something.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like sitting there watching this entire movie going, okay, so when is he going through chemo? Like, what's going on?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
So I was very surprised by that scene.
Mm.
But I've known so many people in my life who are allergic to bees.
Okay. Yep.
And so I immediately when he went back and they were showing it, I was like, "Oh shit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's gonna get him and
Yeah.
everything."
Yeah. There was definitely a lot of foreshadowing in the
Mhm.
movie that I picked up on rewatching it.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like as a kid watching the movie, you don't really pick up on all those clues, and I don't feel like it makes you as emotional. Like obviously I rewatched it and I was crying even though I knew what was happening. I don't know, it just hit me a different way.
Hmm.
But I don't think as like a younger kid you would watch it and get that same sort of reaction. Like I don't feel like you would actually comprehend what's going on. in that same way.
I could definitely see that. I know that there were some movies that I watched as a kid that dealt in death. I did comprehend it.
Hmm.
One of the biggest ones I can think of. One of my all-time favorite animated movies, The Lion King. That death scene definitely like understood how it was and everything.
But that's almost different though because there were animals involved. And I feel like, especially me and you, were big animal lovers, and growing up as kids with animals, like a type of thing, you would sort of become attached to it versus like a kid that you don't know. And it's sort of just, it happens. Like you don't really see the death or anything
Mm,
like that. It's just sort of, okay, he died from the beast. And you're just like, oh, that sucks for her. Like,
yeah.
that's sad. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that is very true. I cry anytime an animal gets killed, and usually I will stop
Hmm.
watching the movie. And
Exactly.
it'll take me a while to even get back to that. But when like a person dies, I'm like, yeah, all right,
Yeah.
they probably deserved it.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
not trying to be all cynical or anything. Back to
No.
My Girl. This was different for me seeing Jamie Lee Curtis,
Oh, yeah.
and
I loved her. Did you love her?
I did. I had just been watching a behind the horror movie scene like
Oh.
on Netflix
Mm-hmm.
where they were talking about Halloween. And so I was seeing the different behind the scenes stuff for Halloween, and then like literally the next day is when I watched My Girl. And okay, first it's still really weird seeing her with longer hair,
Mm-hmm.
even though that's how she is in Halloween, but I'm so used to like Freaky Friday, the
Right.
later Halloweens, all with the short hair. I guess with the exception of the last two, but the long hair was
Mm-hmm.
really different, but I really did like her character in it.
Yeah.
I liked how she kind of became a big sister mom figure for the main girl,
Mm-hmm.
and you knew as soon as like Macaulay Culkin's character reached in the cookie jar and pulled out the money, the girl's eyes were
Right.
like,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, she's gonna fucking steal the money
Oh,
for
yeah.
her.
Yeah.
I was expecting like a little bit of either like a bigger blow up from Jamie Lee Curtis character or a stern talking to. I did like how it was done though.
Yeah.
Once Vara's character
Vada.
admitted Vara, oh, Veda. Like that's watching a movie once, I get characters' names like
Well, yeah. Yeah.
horrible with that, but it was interesting to see that and see how that was set up, and then the dad, seeing the dad in that, I was like,
Dan. Yes. I love
yes,
him. He's such a great actor.
he is. I was reading, they actually had a lot of different people that they were looking at for both the dad and Macaulay Culkin's character.
Mm-hmm.
They were going between him and Elijah Wood
Mm.
because Home Alone had just come out and they didn't think that draws much of a crowd because they didn't think that parents would want to bring their kids to go see a movie where their favorite actor dies. And his dad was like, no, he's gonna be in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting to read
Well,
up on that.
they paid him $1 million to be in that. Like they, after the success of Home Alone, they did a whole however they work into that business, like a contract or whatever. Like they agreed upon giving him a higher pay, even though he was just a small supporting role. He wasn't like a main character as much as, I mean, he was a little bit of a main character, but he didn't have a lot of scenes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting to know that he came off of that and was able to kind of jump into this role. I don't know. I thought the cast as a whole was really good, and I kind of really liked the 70s aesthetic that it was set in. You know, I
Hmm.
thought that that was kind of a neat place to, which I read that it was filmed in Orlando,
Well,
which
yeah.
was really cool. I'm like, wait, That is
Yeah.
so awesome. I love that.
Yeah, because there's a couple of scenes where, like, if you go onto IMDb, people like to post like the spoofs or
Mm.
the things that don't add up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of scenes where you can see palm trees in the background.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Ooh, oh my gosh.
that was definitely interesting. I saw it was in Florida. I didn't see that it was actually in the Orlando area and everything, but
Well, they said that they filmed like on a sound stage in Orlando, but like the exterior of the house was in Bartow, Florida.
okay,
So they,
that's what,
yeah,
yeah.
which makes sense with the palm trees and shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what's your take on her? So, okay, so just Veda's character in general. What was your initial impression of her?
My initial impression was probably, I think I was a little annoyed with her at first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was very much like the whole, almost like a hypochondriac type.
Yeah.
That was kind of like really a bit annoying to me, I guess. But I also kind of related to her.
Okay.
Being more of a tomboy looking on the outside, not really fitting in with the other girls.
Mm-hmm. I don't know
Mostly,
if she didn't fit in with them so much as how she quoted it, which I love the quote was, I only surround myself with people that I find intellectually stimulating, which I thought is for her, for a kid of that age, is genius. Yes, girl, don't put
yes.
yourself down into those, other spots with those kids that just are not bringing you up.
Yes, but then when you look at who she, I mean, besides Thomas J, Macaulay Culkin's character, the other boys that she would like at the beginning that she was like showing the funeral home to and
Mm-hmm.
everything, those weren't ones that were stimulating character or anything like that.
Well,
It
I don't
was,
know that she actually ever hangs out with them. I think she just gets money from them because she's
yeah,
smart and she's using her life to get, money. Yeah, but I definitely found her character to be super just annoying and she was almost like a bitch.
yeah.
And a little bit of a bully to Thomas J, I felt like.
I thought so too. I was like, okay, this is really hard to watch because
Mm-hmm.
I guess in a sense, like I relate to both her and Thomas J. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
Thomas J's like the quiet, like wanting
Yep.
to have friends and go along with things, but then also Veda for her just being more kind of into the not so girly things and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But her bullying of Thomas, I was just like, girl, what are you doing? This guy is giving you attention and everything, and you're being a bitch to him.
And I almost wonder if a big part of that, which is why I like Shelley, Jamie Lee Curtis coming in and being that sort of female role model, is that she didn't grow up with any
Yeah.
female, really. I mean, her grandma has Alzheimer's, so didn't really get anything from her.
Mhm.
So it makes sense that she would be more of that tomboy, not really feel super girlish or anything because she didn't have that. And then Jamie's character comes in and she gives her kind of a makeover and makes her feel a little pretty. And now she's like, look at me, and almost sort of has a 180 viewpoint on things.
Yeah. Like I said, I really did like Jamie Lee's character. Gosh, that's a mouthful.
It is.
Uh, but I really did like her character, and that she too was one that stood up for herself
Mm.
and wasn't just the quiet female background or anything like that. All in all, it was a decent movie.
Decent movie, she said.
Decent movie.
Out of
I
five
don't,
stars, what would you give it?
you're gonna probably hate me for this. Probably like a 2.5. It's one that it's not my genre that I gravitate to,
Right.
but it's not one that I was like, oh my gosh, is this over? Like
Yeah.
I did enjoy watching it. Will I watch it again Not necessarily.
Hmm.
I'd recommend it to people, but it's not one that so it's not one that I'm gonna be like, oh my God, don't watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like a mutual one
Hmm.
for me. I'll be honest, I preferred it to over Home Alone.
Oh, there you go. Hey, won you over on something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty successful movie when it came out. It was, I believe, number two. You know, it
Hmm.
made over 100 million. So, I mean, it did really well. I mean, and to the point where they tried to do a sequel, which wasn't as successful. I've never seen it, so I don't know anything about it, but I've heard it's not anything that lives up to the original. So it's kind
Yeah.
of just a dud in a sense. But, they did try to work with what they had and, give fans that love the original something more to go off of with the characters. And I am curious in the sequel if Veda sort of transforms any and if her character is maybe less hypochondriac, is,
Mm.
like, is that improved at all? Or, and that whole, I mean, did you ever have like a crush on one of your teachers in
I
school?
was just about to ask you that too. I was waiting for a second. I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask her this. Honestly, no.
Hmm.
So with how my school was in like elementary school, we didn't have a male teacher
Oh, okay.
until the fourth grade.
Mm.
There was our principal and then our PE teacher and then one of our fourth grade teachers was
Mm.
male.
Okay.
But that was all of the males in my elementary school. As I got into middle school and high school, obviously I had more variety. Were there some that were decent to the eye and everything like in high school and stuff? Sure, but I never had a crush on them. It was more that they were younger, they were a little bit more easy to talk to
Right.
and had more of a adult type relationship and that could talk to them.
Hmm.
It wasn't like a little schoolgirl crush or anything.
Yeah.
There really wasn't any. So maybe that's why like that part like I kind of don't understand
Yeah.
that with her.
Yeah.
What about you? Did you ever have?
I don't think I ever had like a crush, like you said, but I do know that there was in my elementary school, we had a male PE teacher. So I was there for kindergarten through second. And I know that he was like my favorite.
Mhm.
And even my mom will vouch that he was definitely good looking. So like he was, he was super nice, like so great to the kids. He's one of those very just one of those teachers that really enjoyed his job.
Yeah.
So I definitely remember really enjoying being in his presence, but not in a way like Veda's character was, where like I'm gonna get married to him. Like no,
Yeah.
that I had my own crush of my own age. That age, I had my own crush. It was not an older male, so I.
Yeah.
I was okay. That's probably why I was okay and wasn't looking elsewhere. But
Yeah. Absolutely. Like I said, that's one of those things. I mean, I understand it
it
because
happens. Yeah.
no, granted, like at that age, I did have like crushes on celebrities and
Yeah,
everything.
it's all innocent, you know what I
But
mean?
yeah,
It's young, cute kid. Now, if it was like a
yeah,
15-year-old, someone in like their early teens that had a crush, like then I feel like it tends to be a little bit weirder and
hmm
it happens.
yeah. I knew that he was gonna at one point come out and say, "Hey, I'm married or
Yeah.
I'm engaged. I have a girlfriend." And so I was
Right.
waiting for that. And for them to drop it the day of the funeral, I was like,
Oof.
"Oh, where the hell has this lady been the rest of the movie?"
Right? Yeah, that's a gut punch for her.
I was like, "What the hell? Like, has she been like hiding in the back room waiting for that perfect gut punch?" But
God, yeah.
I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
ouch."
Yeah, she's already at her lowest and now brought even lower and
Mm-hmm.
just feels even more isolated and not having anything. Did you think that her dad and Jamie's character, did you feel like they had a good sort of relationship? Like they had a good connection? Did you like them together?
I did. The only thing for me, I think it kind of felt like it went a little too fast, especially for the 70s.
Yeah, that's true.
So I feel like now it's common to see
Hmm.
people meet somebody, then a couple months later be engaged or something
Hmm.
like that. But back in the 70s, I don't feel like that was as common. I could be completely wrong. I wasn't alive then, so
Right.
I really don't know.
And we don't really know the exact time span, but it was over the summer, so it definitely wasn't any more than 2 months. Like
Yeah,
it was pretty quick.
yeah. And that kind of was just like, because they were like, oh, we're gonna get married before the end of the summer. Y'all met right after summer started. What, does summer start in like April and then end in September?
Even still, though, I mean,
That part I didn't care for. And then how it was announced to Vada.
mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
That's a nice ring.
Well, guess what? Yeah, yeah, you could tell she already was not, and I understand it. Like her dad hadn't been with anyone since her mom passed, and she felt, super guilty for her mom's death and thought she was responsible. And so I can only imagine. I mean, I can't really imagine being in that position. That's never happened to me before, but you can only imagine what it would be like at that age, seeing your father with some woman and it's moving like super quickly. It's got to be hard.
Agreed. That would be, and especially at that age
Hmm.
too. I think it would be one thing if it was kind of a younger age where you're not really understanding things,
Exactly. Exactly.
or at an older age where your focus is more on your own life, like even
Hmm.
just mid to late teens.
Right.
But at that
That
age,
age.
11 and a half or whatever she was,
Hmm.
that is such a developmental stage for a female.
Right. Which we
And
saw, she was going through some shit.
yeah, what was she saying? It was
She was
hemorrhoid,
hemorrhaging. She was
hemorrhaging.
hemorrhaging. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, that's a new one.
She's very creative.
Yeah, I do give her props for that. Like, definitely would be a writer for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So, speaking of that, in the creative writing class, when they do the
Mm.
circle
Oh yeah.
and everything, her mom, the actress's mom, is actually got a small cameo
Oh
in that.
really? Oh
Yeah,
cute.
it's when the teacher's saying, I don't remember the characters' names, but I'm just gonna throw out names here. Like Bob and Jill are gonna lead us in this meditate this circle or whatever,
Oh yeah.
and then it pans to somebody, to a female, and she's like, "Oh, this is exciting," or something like that.
Oh,
That's the girl who played Vada's mom.
that's sweet.
I saw that and I was like, "Oh, that's nice that they
Yeah.
threw that
Let
in
her go
there."
in. Yeah. Aw.
Now, I'm gonna get a little morbid here, but
I mean, it's a
did
morbid movie, but
it is. So, did you ever deal with death at a young age? Like in that kind of age range, like preteens or anything like that? Did you ever deal with death to where you went to a wake or a funeral or anything like that?
So the only death that I can remember at a younger age, it was my grandfather.
Hmm.
But he was like a step grandfather, I guess that's how you call it when they remarry.
Yeah.
That happened when I was probably around, I think, same age as Veda.
Hmm.
I I can't say that I remember too much about it. I don't think it really resonated with me like too much of what was happening. Like I knew he had passed and I knew like everyone was sad and I was sad because I, really liked him type of thing. But outside of that, I thankfully hadn't had any other encounters with death until I was much older. So he was close to me, but not in a way where I feel like it affected me how Thomas J's death affected Veda.
Hmm.
How about you?
I unfortunately I did deal with some deaths early on, actually kind of about the same age as Vada.
Hmm.
Some friends had passed that were younger. So that, and then not even like 2 years later, my dad's adopted father passed.
Hmm.
And so that was hard going through what felt like multiples within such a short time
Hmm.
frame. And the first ones were young, like they were
Hmm.
high school, middle school friends. And so that was different because it was like my grandfather. I mean, he was 70s or something like that. So he had lived
Hmm.
a long life and everything. I just remember, I don't know about you, but like her going up to Thomas J's character and like grabbing a hold of him and everything. I remember at that age when when I went to those wakes, I was terrified to touch their bodies
Hmm.
and everything. I think it sounds horrible, but I think it had to do with probably like Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark episode,
Yeah, I can understand that.
which I wasn't usually allowed to watch. I wasn't supposed to watch when I would, because I watched those at like 5 and 6, I think, or just watching some of those scary movies and like the
The
dead
dread.
people,
Yeah.
like I think I might have had recently just seen Sixth Sense and everything. And so that too, even as an adult, I have had difficulties like when going up to a wake
Mm.
and seeing whoever. Only just the last couple have I been able to like give my final kisses goodbye
Hmm.
and everything, but it's hard.
Yeah, I think it is hard. I never really been to, I don't really think my grandfather had like that type of service. I know that my cousin had passed and they did a wake like that, where open casket type thing. And I attended, but I did not go and, view it or anything.
Mhm.
I just, I'm not about that. I don't know. I feel like if it were like super close family, like I would,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I think it would be really hard, and I just it's not something I care to do. I don't like death. I know
Yeah.
it's part of life and it sucks, but it's just not an experience that's anybody wants to have to go through.
Yeah. I do give the actress major props
Mm,
for
mm-hmm.
that scene.
Yeah.
I think especially at the young age, having to put so much emotion into it
Mm-hmm.
and make it come across realistically.
Right.
Like you
She
felt for her.
You really felt for it. Yeah, that scene always gets me, even though, like I said, I know what's gonna happen,
Hmm.
I know what's gonna be said, but every time I rewatch it, it's like, oh my gosh, where are his glasses?
Glasses,
It's
yeah.
so sad.
He
Like
can't
just
see
the
without
way,
glasses.
yeah, like oh my gosh, it's awful.
And just, I couldn't even imagine growing up in a funeral home like that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what your thoughts would be if you were to grow up in one. Would you ever want to grow up in one?
Hell to the no.
No, exactly.
I Oh, we've talked about this before. Like you and I, like I watch too many freaking scary movies and like haunting movies and everything.
Hmm.
I would not get a second of sleep
No,
in
God,
those.
no.
I would be like hearing things even if they weren't there
Hmm.
and seeing things because my mind would just go
Exactly.
everywhere.
Paranoid,
And
100%.
I'd probably like I'd want to have animals to be able to like tell if there was actually spirits or anything since they're a
Mm.
little bit more in tune. But then
Hmm.
they'd probably like be freaking out too because there's so much negative energy, I guess would be the best
Hmm.
way to put it.
It's kind of odd that I don't, I don't know if it's a thing, but just the fact that they lived where they worked. Like, why do they live there? Like, why don't they have a separate business? It's,
So for it used to be for funeral homes, that's how it used to be.
Really?
Yeah. And there's still something where it is still like that, where the homes are just, that's why it's called a funeral home. I don't know if it was mainly because of just making sure of everything was taken care of, being able to at any time, if there was like late night accidents or something like that, where they could still work, I guess, at all
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah. I'm sure it keeps the cost of living down too. You know, you don't have to
Yeah.
have two separate places running. So I mean, I'm sure back then it just made more sense, and maybe it was a house first and then they decided to open up the funeral thing and they had enough space in the house
Mhm.
to accommodate that or something, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think in a sense it's kind of like just how a lot of shops have apartments above them,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know that it was a big thing. The funeral homes were true homes for people.
I mean, yeah, if that's your life and you enjoy that, then I mean, okay, like who cares? Like whatever. But I feel like raising a kid in that environment is what's, I feel like that's not the best thing for her. She already lost her mom. Now she's in this funeral home where all she sees and knows is death. So of
Hmm.
course she's a hypochondriac, and everything that she can imagine, she learns from the people that have come in dead. Like I mean,
Yeah.
it all makes sense, and it but mentally, that has to be really challenging growing up with that for
Yeah.
sure.
What was your reaction when you were rewatching this to when Grandma burst into a current funeral and breaks out in song?
Oh, sweet grandma. She just wanted to sing her song for somebody. I mean, just let her sing.
I was
Oh.
dying. I was like, oh my gosh, this is too much.
Oh.
It's like one of those things where like somebody, hotel having 10 different convention centers or convention rooms, and somebody like busting into, I think there was actually a movie with it where like there was a hotel with like multiple like wedding venues, and
Oh,
somebody's trying to
yes.
stop a wedding and they burst
Mm-hmm. They
into the
go into the
wrong
wrong
one.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop.
I object. Uh,
Oh, wrong people. Never mind.
Never
Carry
mind.
on.
But it killed me where how her dad was like, "Your one job is to watch her,
Yeah.
and
That's
she's
awful.
11."
Yeah, why does she have to? Yeah, she shouldn't have to because you're off with your new girlfriend. Like, come
Yeah.
on, no. Yeah, I didn't like that. That was, yeah, and I'm sure his dad struggles a lot, but I did feel like I almost wonder if she acted out a lot of the time in the way she did because her dad almost didn't pay that much attention to her. You know what I mean? Like he's so focused on his dead people that he didn't know how to interact with the live people he had in front of him.
We obviously saw that with his beginning interactions with Jamie's character,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's also why she gravitated towards the teacher, because he listened to her. He gave her
Oh yeah.
feedback and everything. And so it
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I feel like he represented the father figure that she wished she had.
Right,
And that's
right.
why she was drawn to him in that way. And of course, she doesn't know how to articulate her feelings of what she's
Mm-hmm.
truly feeling. And so she's thinking it's love of I'm going to marry you, but really it's
Yes.
the I haven't a father who's there but not there, and
Mm-hmm.
you're filling that void in my life, and so that's why I love you.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense as to why all of that happened. And I'm curious as to if the sequel takes their relationship, that father-daughter relationship, a step ahead and they maybe are more bonded and maybe they're, if not, they should have done that, but
Hmm.
I'm hoping that maybe that was sort of developed because they're both great characters and great actors and I would like to have seen them be a bit more loving towards each other.
Yeah, for sure. Now we all know Macaulay Culkin did other things, Jamie Lee Curtis, Dan Aykroyd.
Mhm.
What about the girl who played Vada?
Anna.
Did she do much else?
So she did some other little things, and I think a lot of it was more smaller roles and some
Okay.
indie stuff. And only just in the past few years, I've seen her kind of pop back into the acting role. And I'm not sure if she took a little break or if she just wasn't being given, a lot of roles. But like she did the show Inventing Anna, she did the
Okay.
show Veep, which were two of shows that I really enjoyed watching. And when I remember when I first started watching Veep, it's probably, I don't remember when it first came out, probably a good 5 years ago, maybe now. And I saw her character, I was like, holy crap, that's Vada from My Girl. I was like, she's back. Like, like she's so recognizable. Like she looks the same
Really?
as she's aged. Yeah, she really does. And she's like, yeah. So it was really cool to see her kind of coming back into the spotlight and getting these roles again.
That's awesome. I'm really happy to hear that. And I know Macaulay's kind of started to step back into the spotlight
Mm-hmm.
too. He did
He did American Horror Stories.
he did that. He also was in a couple of episodes of what was it, Dollface?
Oh because of Brenda. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's true.
which that was interesting. That was
Yeah.
definitely that relationship is not one that I think anybody saw coming, but good for
No.
them. I mean, they've been
Yeah.
together for a good amount of time and
They have a
everything.
kid, right?
Yeah, I believe
Yeah, they're super
so.
cute. Yeah.
I'm glad to see everybody's still going, doing pretty well and everything. Made career strides after this.
Exactly. Yeah. Because sometimes, especially with the child actors, they sort of just disappear. Like they have a couple roles and then they just get burnt out of it or whatever happens, and then you never hear from them again. Maybe they go on and just have like a regular career. So it is nice when you see these child actors that sort of are able to remain stable in a sense to where they can continue on in that acting career and still get those roles, and they're still really good at it.
Absolutely.
And you remember when you were asking me earlier about the rating of the movie because you were kind of like, why is this only PG, right?
Yes, I was reading that too. I think probably the same thing what you're gonna say.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because that's what when I was read that, I was like, huh, that's very interesting. I don't know how that works to where like basically the producers appealed to have it be only PG because they were pushing for whoever the higher ups are were pushing for a PG-13 rating.
Which I can definitely fucking see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Some of the topics that were discussed in
Mm-hmm.
light
Yeah.
definitely was like, okay, this is what?
You're right.
Then I did see that in, I think it was the UK, they had a disclaimer at the beginning of it when
Hmm.
showing because of the blood pact, because
Oh, yeah, that's true.
they had a disclaimer telling
That was kind
kids,
of disturbing, to be
yeah,
honest. Like, pick your scabs. I'm like, wait a second. No.
no. And honestly, I was like, oh, okay. So she gives him something, and that's what causes his death. Like that, my brain.
Oh my
And so I
gosh.
was like, okay, so like then she already thinks she killed her mom, and now she's gonna be like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, I killed him by putting my blood into him by doing this blood pact, and so my brain was like going a
I mean,
million miles that
I mean,
way.
you could almost, and you could almost view it as she kind of was responsible because he was going back out to find her mood ring.
Yeah,
Fuck. What?
yeah. Now, did you notice first had knocked it down? There were wasps.
Oh, was it wasps?
Those weren't bees to start with.
Oh,
And then when like
no.
it was like coming after, when they were starting to hoard and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then the death scene, that part, those were bees. But
Right.
because like I was watching, I was like, that's not a wasp's nest, is it? I was like, fuck, I hate wasps. Those suckers don't die after they sting you.
Yeah. No.
And I had bad wasp experience when I was a
So have I.
child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because wasps tend to go after you. Bees don't typically will go after you, but he was sort of invading their territory and whatnot. So of course they did.
Yeah. When I was watching that, I was like, and then I was reading IMDb and that was pointed out. I was like, okay, so
Oh,
I
really?
originally I was like, did I just see that incorrect? Did I just assume that it was a wasp? But then I was like, okay, I wasn't going crazy.
So I wonder if they did that as like a separate shot on a different, take, and then like all the other stuff was with the bee person.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So I saw the wasp. I'm like, nope, 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 nope. Don't do it. I'm like, those suckers will chase you. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That for someone that knows that they're allergic to so many things, like why he put himself in that position is kind of just like, buddy, that was dumb. Like, come on.
Yeah, because he was so worried about getting home for supper and my mom will get mad at me for this. Well, your mom's gonna get mad at you for going and putting yourself in these positions.
And it's like he was just trying to win Veda over, because
Yeah.
she's like, yeah, they're best friends or whatever, but she always seemed to kind of put in a little jab on him, and I think he just wanted to be, having a supportive friend and they can just do whatever, and I think he kind of went an extra mile for that relationship more so than she did.
Yeah.
I feel. What do you think of their little kiss that they did though?
So I find it interesting that it took them 15 takes for that.
It always amazes me with takes on a movie that they have to do for certain things anyways. So for a simple little 2-second take 15 times is crazy.
And that was Macaulay's first on-screen kiss.
Did you have your first kiss at that age?
No. We're not even going to discuss what age I was at that.
Yeah, me neither. I don't want to get into that.
Or not.
It definitely wasn't in the 90s. That's what all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, we're not getting into that point.
Oh my gosh.
I thought it was weird, I guess. I don't know.
Weird,
like,
yeah.
I just maybe that's how it was back in the 70s when it was supposed to take place. That was more common, but like in the 90s, I don't think a lot of the people that I grew up with had their first kiss until like junior high, middle school, high school age type thing. It just wasn't, I don't know, I guess there wasn't as much boy-girl friendships or something in a sense. For me, some of my closer friends in like elementary school, I was closer with some of the boys just because of babysitting. Like I shared the same babysitter and stuff like that, but it was never a situation where there was that. It was just friendship. It was never like, let's experiment or anything like that.
Right.
There was never
like
that.
Everyone's doing it. Yeah. She just definitely was just trying to grow up too fast, or I mean, I don't know. There was just something behind it where she just felt like she had to do that, and poor Thomas just got pulled into it. He's just like, okay, close my eyes, like what's happening?
And what was his response again? She's like, say something, and it was like, I pledge allegiance to the flag or something.
Yeah, they started saying the allegiance. Yes,
I was like,
was cute.
oh my gosh,
that was cute.
like you rattle his.
He's like, I don't know.
No, that part was cute. I was like, okay, that is such a kid thing to do. Like,
right, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. What's the first thing? Well, you say the allegiance at school every day, so that's like what pops in, I guess.
Oh yeah. Well, we used to. I don't think they do
Sorry,
anymore.
I should say used to do that. That was a 90s thing, kids.
Yeah.
Well, pre-90s, everything pre-2000 thing.
Yeah.
Do you like the title song, My Girl? Is that something you listened to growing up?
Talking about my girl, my girl. Yes. And so that's why, like, I was a little surprised I hadn't actually seen the movie. Because that is like a 70s song, right? Or is it a 60s?
I think it's a 70s song, but Could be 60s.
I am horrible on the decades on things that came out before the 90s.
65, yeah,
65,
65.
okay. I like a lot of those older songs,
Mm-hmm.
like that have kind
Yes.
of that fun feel to it.
There was a song in one of the scenes that was playing in the background that I have heard recently in a commercial.
Uh-huh.
And I just thought, I was like, wow, look at that. They brought back, like, the commercial brought back some older song that this movie utilized. I don't remember what it was called, but I thought that was kind of cool. And I liked the doo wah diddy song. I remember singing that
Mm.
as a kid myself, honestly. And it
Do-a
was just a fun
diddy
little
diddy
doo wah
yum,
diddy
diddy
diddy.
diddy yum, diddy dum. Da, 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 da. Yep.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that one. That's a
I
fun song.
Yeah, yeah, that one, all of their little songs that they broke out into
Mm-hmm.
were ones where I'm like, oh man, you're killing me with the nostalgia on that one, on those for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I did like that. Like I said, I did like the whole 70s aesthetic. I loved the way it was shot. I loved, just the clothing was cool. The music that they utilized was super cool. And I'm curious as to why they chose to make it set in the 70s. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't feel like
Yeah.
there was any one thing that made it like it had to be the 70s.
So that's interesting that you say that because for me, I, with the exception of a few things here or there, I didn't actually feel like it was true 70s. I kind of
Mm-hmm.
felt more like, oh, it's just the 90s in a sense.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I know that there are scenes I couldn't point them out to you, but people online did, unposted and everything. But there were scenes where there was makes and models of cars in the
Right, the
backgrounds that were
cars.
like
Mm-hmm.
80s and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Different continuity errors. But when I think of 70s, I immediately go to like the disco bell bottoms. And so I was kind of, I guess, a little disappointed to not see as much of that in the movie as I thought there would be, fashion wise.
Yeah, like when Jamie Lee like walked out in that denim dress in her first scene, I was like, this is screaming 70s. And I was
Yeah.
thinking they were gonna play on that more, but you're right, they really didn't too much. Like it really like you said, it really could have been anywhere in the 80s, anywhere in the 90s. It didn't feel super dated or like 70s-ish.
And maybe that's why it's still, a lot of people still really enjoy it because it could be in any time, in any era. And there's still so many like single parent homes where it's a father with a daughter, a mother with a son, where they don't have the knowledge, I guess, in a sense of to help get them through stuff going on at that age.
Mm-hmm.
A young girl starting her cycle and everything. A dad's not going to know how to help get her through that necessarily. I give props to all of the single parents who do work through those,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess what I'm saying is since they don't have enough to really make it feel super, super 70s, people can relate to it, I think, a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, you make a good point. Yeah, that's true. Because some of those movies where it really is stuck in like a certain you can't era, you can't really look past that. So you watch the movie 40 some years later and you just realize how stuck in that time period it is. Whereas like this one, it doesn't. Like you can watch it at any time and not make it feel like, oh, this is definitely a super old movie. So I
Yeah.
do like that about that.
One thing that did kind of bring it back to the 70s, though, or kind of date it, the carnival scene.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Those bumper cars definitely were dated for sure.
Yeah, if you still see those at carnivals today, you should probably run. Like
Yeah,
don't go on
yeah,
those.
probably. Or even the game where she wins the fish.
Hmm.
Like they don't do those prizes anymore like that. It's just the cheap stuffed animals usually.
True. Yeah, I remember winning fish fish at carnivals though back in the 90s.
I don't know if I ever, we didn't do a lot of larger carnival things like that. We just had a small little carnival in my town, and we didn't have like that kind of thing with actual live fish or stuff like that. I mean, we had like turtle races or frog races, but nothing where you actually won a living, breathing animal.
Yeah, and if they don't have that anymore, I'm very thankful because I don't like that concept anyways. I think it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So I'm glad if they got rid of that for sure.
Yeah. I always feel bad with for like the fish in the bags and everything. It's I don't care like how short the distance is. That's like putting yourself in like a little coffin or something. Those fish need more room, even just for a little bit of a travel.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure.
All right. Well, you got any more last words for my girl?
Well, the only other thing I was gonna say that I found out about, which maybe you did too, going back off of like when we were talking about before with the whole rating and like the whole, okay, how are they gonna get people to want to come see this movie because of how it basically ends? And I guess with their marketing, they got these child psychologists involved to sort of release these quotes to basically ease parents' minds that this is a good movie. It's okay. It's not that bad. Like, don't worry about it. It's come to the theaters and watch it. We're psychologists. We say it's okay. They literally did that for their marketing and it worked. Like the movie was
Wow.
successful. So
Wow. Oh
isn't
my
that
gosh.
wild?
That is insane because you know that like true, I'm gonna say it. Honestly, I don't see a true like child psychologist being necessarily saying that this is okay for a child's psyche to watch at a young age because it does even as an adult watching it it kind of you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
like ah
Yeah.
but especially because of how the death is portrayed. Yes, we don't see like the bees actually
Right.
attacking him
Right.
or anything like that, but the fact that it is bees, it's not like something like cancer or
Mm-hmm.
a car accident or something that
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have a lot of control over. Bees, so many people are allergic to bees that
Mm-hmm.
a single sting can be deadly.
And it
And
was.
it was. And so I feel like those child psychologists may probably were just in it for the money. Like, okay,
Maybe. Yeah.
how much are you going to pay me for telling people that this is okay to go see?
Yeah,
I'm
it could have been.
I'm just putting it out there. Like, it's not something that I truly in my heart believe a psychologist would be like, oh yeah, go take your child to a movie that ends in death and of a child
Right. Right.
and happens to be your child's favorite actor from a different movie that's
Well,
going to
yeah, because
traumatize them.
it says, yeah, and then they had that whole scene where they brought in that smaller, like child-sized coffin. So
Yeah.
that, I mean, obviously it's a foreshadow, but it is kind of, you watch and you're like, ooh, okay, that's kind of, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know if maybe the whole psychologist thing, getting them to say that maybe that worked in their favor to get that PG rating that they were going for too. Like look, we have all these people backing us. Like it's okay. You know what I mean? Like maybe it was something like that.
Honestly, though, I am amazed at some of the things that made it as a PG movie in the 70s up to the 90s.
Hmm.
Like how some things were still PG, and then how some things even now are, how the hell are they PG?
Hmm.
Some of the innuendos that they slide through,
Mm.
I'm like, what the flying hell? As an adult watching this, that's not PG.
Right. Yeah, I don't know either.
One last question for
Uh-huh.
you. Did you ever have mood rings?
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah, that was When did those start like becoming popular? Was that a big 70s thing, I
I
think?
think so. Because my mom talked about having mood rings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I first got one of my first ones, she's like, "Oh, I had one back in high school or whatever, junior high."
I'm wondering if this movie is what sort of made them become popular again because I know that they were a bigger thing in the 90s. I know my sister had
Mhm.
one. I may or may not have had one or just taken hers, I'm not sure, but
I
I
had
do
so
remember
many.
them. Really?
Yeah, I did.
Were they
Now,
always black?
yes, it showed my black soul. Yes, all of my mood
I
rings
love it.
always were black, and it took, spoiler alert for people who don't understand the how
Mm,
the mood rings
how they
are.
work.
It is by heat
Hmm.
and not by your mood necessarily, unless
Well,
your
and
mood,
that's why it was blue at the end when she got it back.
mhm, because it'd been on him
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah,
Ooh. And
which,
they try to play it off like, oh yeah, she's happy now.
yeah, no,
No,
no.
that's so awful.
That is horrendous, but
Yeah.
yeah. No, I loved my mood rings. Like I had like a
Yeah.
mood ring thumb, like a thumb ring. I
Mm.
had a couple of just regular ones, but that would always be something at like any of those carnivals or anything. If
Oh yeah.
or like arcades, those were
Oh
always
yeah, you
like
could like win them. You could get
yeah,
prizes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd get so many, but they only lasted so long because they were always cheap and turned your finger.
Exactly. Yeah, they did. Didn't you get when we went to that festival recently? Didn't you get like a mood pencil or something?
I think so, to
Did
be
have you
honest.
tried them?
No, I haven't. Simply because it's been so crazy and everything, and I only literally just refound the bag.
You gotta try the pencil. I'm curious as to
Yeah,
what it does.
absolutely. As long as I don't have to sharpen it. I don't have a pencil
Eh,
sharpener.
that's true.
I don't even know if they make those
Hmm.
anymore.
I mean, all you have to do is use like an eyeliner sharper. They work
I
on
don't
that.
have any. I don't.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I always get the ones that you can just
oh,
twist
yeah, I know. I
because
love those
I
better.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't like
I hate
having.
sharpening.
I hate that the pencil shavings and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Mm,
Mess.
mm.
Oh, yeah, I wonder if they still sell mood rings or not. If they're, I wonder if, because the 90s are kind of coming back. I wonder if those are coming back with them or not. I mean, I know they're not a night like a from
Mhm.
the 90s per se, but
I think they probably do. I'm sure like Walmart or Target still has them. The only question is, did they up their game and actually make them ones that aren't going to turn your finger green?
I'm gonna have to look into those and see if I can find like a decent one to
Yeah.
see what they've got out there. Because I'd be curious.
Yeah, I would like to too, because
If I can find a cute one.
yeah.
I was gonna say one thing that the movie was missing was animals, but then I remember that they had the terrible fish scene, and I really wish that they would have just not have had any animals at all in the film.
Hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? Where she's like, "Is it dead?" And he's like, "No, it's fine. It swam away." And I'm like,
It's like,
"No!"
no,
Like
that,
terrible.
yeah. Mm,
That's so like I can't like that's so sad. Like no.
yeah.
Why were you hooking it up anyways? And then, ugh.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, it had some really like cute, funny bits, but it definitely was loaded in a lot of very emotional, like heavy hitting scenes that
Yeah.
it just yeah, I don't know how as a kid anyone could really watch that and be like, "Oh my gosh, mom, that was my favorite movie. Let's watch it again." You know what I'm saying? Like it just
Yeah.
doesn't seem like that's how it would have went when you were younger. So I'm very curious as to the reactions of actual kids that saw it during that time that it came out and not later on in their life.
Yeah, that would be definitely a talking point because, like you said, I don't see redeeming qualities to bring up to counteract
Mm-hmm.
the finale
Right.
and everything. Like it's not something like that we dealt with that death early on, and so then
Mm-hmm.
they were able to grow and progress. It was
Right.
just very, very much that was the finale of the movie, and then you just kind of had things wrapping up, kind of
Yeah.
tying with a bow of, hey, people are moving on,
Yeah.
but you don't get too much of a
No.
backstory on how really they progress. So
Yeah, no. It's definitely not a light movie.
yeah.
It's you kind of have to go into it expecting like, okay, some shit's gonna happen. Like there's some darker, heavier conversations, just a lot of death. I mean, from the beginning, it's just a lot of death
Hmm.
and yeah. I'm not really sure what the appeal was for my sister and why she enjoyed the movie so much, but I don't know.
I'd be curious to know the answer to that.
And I'd be curious to know anybody else who is listening that really enjoyed the movie and like maybe it impacted their life in some way or it really sort of reflected your childhood. I'm curious as to that. So let us know kind of your thoughts on the movie and what you thought of it, either watching it as a kid when it came out or later on as an adult. I'd be very interested to know.
Definitely. And also for those who want to revisit it, it is
Mm-hmm.
on Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, Netflix. It's out there on the streamings, so definitely can check it out.
We gave you the disclaimer
Yep,
here at 90s Noise, so it's at your own risk when you watch it.
that's for sure. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and we will be back next week with another episode of 90s Noise. Let us know if you have any suggestions on something you'd like for us to watch in general from the 90s, whether it be a show, a movie, or some music. Let us know and we will touch on that for sure. So,
Yay! All right. Well, peace out, everyone.
peace.